The Silent Plea. The Voxari once commanded respect across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Their crystalline ships pierced the void between stars like shards of light, their technology so advanced that some species worshipped them as gods. For 10,000 years, they stood as beacons of knowledge and progress, sharing their discoveries with younger races and protecting the cosmic balance with their vast armadas. Now, they were dying. Deep Space Monitoring Station Epsilon 9 picked up the signal on what would have otherwise been an unremarkable Tuesday. Dr. Amara Chen was midway through her night shift, absently stirring her 3rd cup of coffee, while the arrays scanned the darkness beyond human space. The computer flagged the transmission as anomalous, a repeating pattern too structured to be natural, too desperate to be casual. "That's originating from the Perseus void," she murmured, setting down her cup. "There's nothing out there." The Perseus void was exactly that, a vast emptiness spanning nearly 300 light-years, where stars and planets were scarce. No known civilization claimed territory there. It was a cosmic desert that most ships avoided. Dr. Chen leaned forward, enhancing the signal. It pulsed with a distinctive rhythm, mathematical in nature, a universal language of desperation. She spent hours decoding it, and when she finally understood, her blood ran cold. "We were many. Now we are few. The Ravagers come. Help us. We offer knowledge beyond imagining. Please." The message repeated, coordinates embedded within the mathematical sequence. She immediately alerted Earth Central Command. Humanity, only 2 centuries into its interstellar age, was still finding its place among the stars. Their ships were functional, but hardly impressive by galactic standards. Their territory spanned just 27 systems. They were newcomers, their technology borrowed and adapted from friendly neighboring species. They had little to offer a race as ancient as the Voxari seemed to be. Yet 3 days after Dr. Chen's discovery, the United Earth Council convened an emergency session. "This is beyond our capability," Admiral Joe argued, his hologram flickering slightly as he transmitted from Mars Command. "We have limited ships, limited resources. The coordinates are at the edge of our range. If this is some trap." "And if it's not," Dr. Chen countered. She hadn't slept properly since discovering the signal. "If an advanced civilization is facing extinction, and we do nothing." Council President Mbiki's expression remained impassive as she considered both arguments. "The decision isn't purely strategic," she finally said. "Humanity expanded to the stars on the principle that we would be better than our history suggests. If we ignore this call for help, what does that say about us?" 2 weeks later, the UES Horizon, Earth's newest long-range exploration vessel, departed with a crew of 143 specialists. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge as they prepared for their first jump. "If the Voxari are as advanced as the historical records suggest," her XO, Commander Jackson Park, said quietly, "why would they need our help?" Captain Vasquez had been asking herself the same question. "I suppose we'll find out." The journey took 73 days, beyond communication range with Earth for the final 3 weeks. As they approached the coordinates, the crew grew tense. The star system they entered was dominated by a dying red giant, its outer layers already beginning to shed in luminous veils of gas. Orbiting the ancient star was a cluster of what appeared to be artificial structures, remnants of a vast civilization. And among them, a single station remained intact, emitting the distress signal. "Life signs?" Vasquez asked. "Uncertain," replied Lieutenant Commander Riza, the ship's science officer. "The readings are unlike anything in our database." The Horizon approached cautiously. As they drew near, the station sent a new transmission, docking instructions in surprisingly fluent English. "They've been studying us," Park observed, unease evident in his voice. "Or they're very quick learners," Vasquez responded. "Prepare a landing party. Full environmental protection. I want weapon systems on standby. But we're responding to a distress call." Let's not make first contact with our fingers on the triggers. The boarding party, led by Vasquez herself, entered through an airlock that reconfigured itself to accommodate their ship. Inside, the environment was breathable but strange, the air carrying a faint scent of ozone and something else, something alien yet oddly familiar. They moved through corridors that seemed to shift subtly as they passed, the architecture responding to their presence. The walls glimmered with embedded technology beyond human understanding. And then they reached what appeared to be a central chamber. They were waiting. The Voxeri stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies semi-transparent, revealing intricate networks of light that pulsed with what Vasquez realized was their equivalent of a circulatory system. Their forms seemed to shimmer between solid and energy, as though they existed partially in another state of matter. "You came," one of them said, the words emerging not as sound but directly into the humans' minds. "We did not believe you would." Captain Vasquez stepped forward. "We received your distress signal. I'm Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Ship Horizon. I am Telex, last speaker of the Voxeri High Council," the alien responded. "Once, we were billions across 1,000 worlds. Now, we number fewer than 10,000. And we are hunted." The story they told over the next hours chilled the human delegation to their core. The Voxeri had indeed been one of the galaxy's most advanced species, their technology approaching what humans might consider godlike. Their mastery of energy and matter had allowed them to build wonders and solve problems that had plagued other species for millennia. But their advancement had attracted the attention of the Ravagers. "They are not a species as you understand it," Telex explained, the mental voice conveying emotions of dread and despair alongside the words. "They are a collective consciousness that infests and consumes advanced civilizations. They are drawn to technological complexity like predators to light." The Ravagers had appeared without warning, emerging from what the Voxeri had believed to be empty space. They attacked not with conventional weapons, but with something the Voxeri called technological parasites. Entities that infiltrated systems, corrupted them, turned them against their creators. "Our defenses, our weapons, our cities, all became instruments of our own destruction," Telex continued. "We fought for centuries, losing ground with each generation. Other races feared contamination and isolated us. Those who tried to help were themselves consumed." "Why us?" Commander Park asked. "Humanity is hardly the most advanced species in known space." A ripple of light, perhaps laughter, perhaps despair, moved through Telex's form. "Because you are different," another Voxeri said, moving forward. "I am Nirix, our chief scientist. We have studied your species since you first began broadcasting into space. Your minds work unlike any we have encountered." Nirix projected images into their thoughts, neural patterns, brain structures, decision trees. Most advanced species evolve toward logical consistency, toward efficiency of thought. Your species embraces contradiction. You are capable of holding conflicting ideas simultaneously. You make intuitive leaps that defy prediction. The Ravagers cannot anticipate you. Vasquez felt a chill. "You're saying we're unpredictable." "We are saying," Telex responded, "that this quality which has sometimes made humans dangerous to yourselves may be the key to defeating the Ravagers. They cannot corrupt what they cannot understand." Dr. Chen, who had insisted on joining the expedition, stepped forward. "You need our unpredictability as a weapon." "We need your unpredictability as salvation," Telex corrected. "And we have little time. The Ravagers have tracked us to this final refuge. They will be here within days." As if summoned by the words, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Nirix moved to a control interface that responded to their presence. "They found us," the alien scientist said, mental voice tight with fear. "A scout vessel has entered the system." Captain Vasquez looked at the beings who had once been among the galaxy's most powerful, now reduced to refugees. Then she opened her comm channel to the horizon. "This is the captain. Battle stations. We have first contact with a hostile force inbound." The Voxeri looked at her with what might have been surprise. You would defend us against an enemy you do not know, with technology beyond your comprehension. Vasquez met the alien's gaze steadily. That's what humans do. We help when we're needed. And apparently, being incomprehensible is our specialty. Strength in unlikely places. The Ravager scout vessel resembled nothing so much as a living shadow moving against the stars. It absorbed light rather than reflected it, its edges undefined, shifting like smoke. The horizon's sensors struggled to lock onto it, the targeting systems constantly recalibrating. What the hell is that thing made of? Lieutenant Santos muttered from the weapons station. Nothing you have words for, Nerix answered. The Voxeri scientist had joined them on the bridge, interfacing directly with the ship's systems through touch. It exists partially in another dimensional plane. Captain Vasquez watched the scout approach on the main view screen. Can we damage it? Conventional weapons would be limited in effectiveness, Nerix admitted. The Ravagers adapt quickly. So do we, Vasquez replied. Commander Park, implement Defense Protocol Echo 7. The horizon began to move erratically, its engine output fluctuating in seemingly random patterns. To an observer, the ship would appear to be malfunctioning, its course unpredictable. The Ravagers anticipate logical defense patterns, Vasquez explained to Nerix. So we're being deliberately illogical. For several tense minutes, the strategy seemed to work. The scout vessel hesitated, changing course several times as if confused by the horizon's movements. Then everything changed. Energy spike. Santos called out. There. The scout vessel pulsed once, and every system on the horizon flickered. Lights dimmed, gravity faltered momentarily, and the view screen distorted with strange patterns. They're attempting to infiltrate our systems, Nerix said, lights pulsing rapidly through their semi-transparent form. This is how it begins. But the expected catastrophic failure didn't come. The horizon's systems stabilized, the infiltration attempt blocked. Our technology is too primitive, Dr. Chen realized, a hint of ironic triumph in her voice. They're designed to corrupt advanced systems. Our computers are too basic for them to effectively take over. Offensive countermeasures, Vasquez ordered. Let's see if they expect us to fight back. The horizon fired its main particle cannon. The beam struck the Ravager vessel, which seemed to momentarily distort, parts of it shifting out of phase with reality. But the damage was minimal. They're sending a transmission back to their main fleet, Nerix warned, interfacing directly with the ship's sensors. They now know about you, about humans. Good, Vasquez said with grim determination. Let them come prepared for the wrong threat. The next 12 hours were a frantic collaboration. While the horizon maintained its erratic patrol pattern around the Voxeri station, the crew worked with the aliens to develop a defense strategy. The key insight came from Dr. Chen. If the Ravagers are drawn to technological complexity, can we create a decoy? Something that appears to be an advanced system, but is actually a trap. Nerix's form brightened with understanding. Yes, we could generate a false technological signature, something irresistible to them. And when they attempt to infiltrate it, Vasquez asked. We feed them chaos, Chen replied. Human neural patterns, random data, contradictory instructions. Nerix interfaced with Dr. Chen's tablet, absorbing decades of human neuroscience research in minutes. Your species' brains, so inefficient, so contradictory, beautiful in their chaos. The Ravagers' distributed consciousness works through perfect logic. Exposing them to human thought patterns would be like introducing a virus. They worked through the night, human engineers and scientists alongside the last brilliant minds of the Voxeri. Together, they constructed what Dr. Chen called a chaos engine, a system that generated the signature of incredibly advanced technology, but when infiltrated, would upload terabytes of human neural activity directly into the Ravagers' collective consciousness. Poetry, music, dreams, nightmares, love stories, horror films, Chen explained as they finalized the system. Everything contradictory about human thought. It may not destroy them, Nerix cautioned, but it should disrupt their coordination, their unity of purpose. As predicted, the main Ravager fleet arrived 16 hours after the Scouts' report. The Horizon's sensors detected 7 massive vessels, each many times larger than the human ship, materializing at the edge of the system. They're approaching in formation, Commander Park reported. Estimated time to weapons range: 6 minutes. Captain Vasquez stood, facing the view screen where the approaching shadows grew larger. Activate the Chaos Engine. All hands. Battle stations. What followed was unlike any battle in human military history. The Ravagers approached with perfect coordination, their ships moving in complex patterns that seemed to bend space itself. Their first attack wasn't with energy weapons or projectiles, but with infiltration. Subtle code and strange energies that probed the defenses of both the Horizon and the Voxeri station. And they found the Chaos Engine. They're taking the bait, Nerix reported, their form pulsing with excitement. The infiltration protocols are diving deep into the system. On the view screen, the Ravager ships suddenly faltered. Their perfect formation broke, individual vessels drifting at odd angles. It's working, Chen exclaimed. But their celebration was premature. The Ravagers, though momentarily confused, began to adapt. 3 of the ships resumed their approach, while the others pulled back, cutting off their connection to the compromised network. They're isolating the affected units, Nerix warned. They learned quickly. The battle intensified. The Horizon evaded and struck where it could, its weapons barely scratching the Ravager vessels, but its unpredictable movements keeping it alive. The Voxeri station activated ancient defense systems, weapons that bent light and gravity in ways human science couldn't explain. Yet for all their efforts, they were outmatched. One by one, the Horizon's systems took damage. The Voxeri station's outer rings began to crumble under concentrated fire. In the command center, Captain Vasquez watched her tactical display with growing despair. "We need something more," she said to Nerix. "The Chaos Engine bought us time, but they're adapting." The Voxeri scientist was silent for a moment, lights pulsing slowly through their form. "There is one possibility," they finally said, "but it requires a sacrifice." What Nerix proposed was radical: a direct neural interface between human minds and the remaining Voxeri defense systems. Not just uploading recorded neural patterns, but creating a live, dynamic connection. "Our technology responds to consciousness," Nerix explained. "With human unpredictability directing it, the defense systems would become as chaotic and unpredictable as you are. The neural strain would be enormous," Dr. Chen warned. "Possibly fatal." "I'll do it," Vask said without hesitation. "Not alone." Commander Park stepped forward. "The more minds, the more chaos, right?" In the end, 7 volunteers connected to the Voxeri systems. Captain Vasquez, Commander Park, Dr. Chen, and 4 others. The interface was painful, disorienting. Their consciousness suddenly expanded beyond human limits. But it worked. The Voxeri defense systems, now guided by human intuition and unpredictability, began to shift and change in ways the Ravagers couldn't anticipate. Energy beams curved in impossible trajectories. Defensive shields appeared where they shouldn't be possible and failed to materialize where expected. The Ravagers, their hive minds still struggling with the chaos introduced by the initial attack, couldn't adapt quickly enough. Their perfectly coordinated attacks became disjointed, predictable. "Push them back," Vasquez ordered, her voice strained through the neural interface. "Don't give them time to regroup." The counterattack was devastating. The Voxeri weapons, guided by human impulse rather than alien logic, struck the Ravagers where they were most vulnerable. 3 enemy ships collapsed in on themselves, their phase-shifted matter destabilizing. The others began to retreat. When it was over, when the last Ravager ship had fled the system, the neural interface was disconnected. The human volunteers collapsed, their minds overloaded but intact. In the days that followed, as both humans and Voxari recovered, a new understanding emerged. The Voxari, with their advanced technology but logical, predictable minds, had been perfect prey for the Ravagers. Humanity, with its contradictions and chaotic thought patterns, was their natural counter. We believed ourselves superior, Telix admitted to Captain Vasquez as they stood on the observation deck, looking out at the red giant star. We thought technological advancement was the measure of a species' worth. We were wrong. We have much to learn from each other, Vasquez replied. Your technology, our unpredictability. The Voxari Council convened for the first time in decades, their decision unanimous. They would offer humanity an alliance, their advanced knowledge in exchange for protection. Together, they would develop new defenses against the Ravagers, combining Voxari precision with human chaos. As the Horizon prepared to return to Earth with representatives of the Voxari and news of both a new threat and a new alliance, Dr. Chen found Nerix in the ship's science lab. What will the other species think? She asked, when they learned that the mighty Voxari now stand with humans. Nerix's form shimmered with what Chen had come to recognize as amusement. They will be confused. They may even be afraid. Most still see you as primitive, unpredictable, dangerous. And what do you see? I see the future, Nerix replied. The galaxy has long favored those who follow logical paths of advancement. Perhaps it is time for a different approach. As the Horizon jumped toward Earth, carrying news that would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos, Captain Vasquez recorded her final log entry of the mission. We came expecting to rescue a dying race. Instead, we found a new beginning. The Voxari were abandoned by a galaxy that feared contamination. They turned to us, the species too young and unpredictable to know better than to help. In doing so, they may have saved us all. The Ravagers will return, and when they do, they'll find that unpredictability is the new power in the galaxy. The cosmos would never be the same.